So welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight, and today I have a new guest. Her name is Aurora, and she has a very interesting YouTube channel, very deep stuff about metaphysical things. If you are interested in those topics, please consider subscribing to her. The link, of course, will be in the description box, and she also has a website that is called thepromethean.com. So welcome, Aurora.
Thank you. Thank you, Judith. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, since a lot of my viewers are not, probably, I don't know, maybe they know about you, but since it is your first time, what sparked your interest into these topics?
That's a very good question. I love that you've asked me that because I've always been interested in trying to understand the deeper principle matters of why things are the way they are. I'm not a person that generally just accepts things for as they are presented. And as you know, obviously, you've also been on the same journey. You tend to go into deeper understanding eventually as you become more wiser to where you shouldn't go into and all of the rest. But I've been doing this for, I think, around 20 years or so officially. I've always been curious to find out how things have been happening on a spiritual level, and then deeper into that as the metaphysical, ontological way, because it's the most clearest form to discern what I'm looking at. So it's like you would look at a Swiss clock. Instead of what I would do is I would take the entire Swiss clock apart and really look at each part that makes the clock, not the clock itself. The clock is the obvious. And then I would be led to discover deeper as to who made the clock. Why was the clock made that way? So naturally, that's just how I am as a person. So I just wanted to share the information. It helps
Sorry.
to be psychic as well.
Yeah, so what I can totally understand that. You know, as a little child, I always had the impression this world doesn't make sense.
Mm, absolutely.
And of course, then, during later on, I was assimilated, you could say,
Yeah.
I had my job, I did what was more or less expected from me, but there was always a little rebel in me.
Yeah, likewise. Definitely. Never really fully got plastered into the straps of the assimilation. Never really.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's definitely something wrong with the world for sure.
yeah.
Mm.
So, why did you pick the name Promethean? I find that interesting. Prometheus was one of the Titans, if I have my mythology.
Yes,
Mm.
yes. I actually thought it was very bold and daring at the time when I thought about it. I'd actually decided on, I had the channel under Armed Heart, and I was giving a lot of information on how to protect the self through a lot of trauma, etc., etc. There's a lot of information on the channel that talks about the journeys that we all take and so forth. And then I felt almost, let me say, compelled to change the name because I think it's time to present something more daring, more bold, sort of more strongly focused on the human spirit being able to take control of themselves. And I was inspired by that mythology of Prometheus because he, after all, did take the fire away from the gods and shared it with people. Um, I changed it. I added a part in my website where I said, actually, the fire was never stolen. It was just simply reintroduced again to people because they've always had this within themselves as being able to have the fire to give themselves light. And that was the focus of why I decided to create that name for the channel.
Yeah,
You can help
interesting.
yourself with the light, your own light. It's always been there. It's never been stolen anywhere. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think it is high time that we remember that.
absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
there, of course, there are people out there that equate Prometheus with Lucifer, and then they
Yes, I
that
had that.
Lucifer is
Oh,
also Satan. I
yeah,
don't see Lucifer as Satan, I have to admit.
I agree with
Absolutely
you.
not. And because, you know, to me, Lucifer is, when it comes to the planets, it's usually Venus.
Yes,
And Satan would be Saturn. So you have a male and a female
yes.
component. And that is why I would say that makes no, to me, other people can believe what they want, but to me, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I've basically explained it as archetypes as well, where I was explaining a deep dive on Lucifer and really referenced it as an image that was used to do certain things. An archetype is essentially like a mythology, an image in which certain practices or rituals can be done or ideologies can be projected into the world. So essentially, if you go into Satan, which is actually the adversary, it is also an archetype. We all have the adversarial element within ourselves, our own judgment as such. This I had explained then about Satan as well, that if you look at Saturn, from which the derivative of the word Satan comes from, etymologically, the soul is similar in the image where it's a circle with a dot, a circumpunct in the middle, which is very similar to looking at Saturn, the planet, as well as circle with the rounder circle inside. And I was explaining that the most adversarial or judgment moment that you have within yourself is coming from also from your soul into yourself. You would be judging yourself if you pass on. When you pass away, you die, you will judge yourself. You will be judged by your own fruits and your actions. So based on that, I've basically explained and I see it in the same way. You've brought in the masculine and the feminine principle in this, and it is exactly how it runs, how these elements or archetypes are running in conjunct with one another. So in terms of that, you could also look at the way that magic has been produced now these days, where they are stuck on those older adversarial or stuck on the archetypes. They don't move on from that. That's all they know. This is how that's another reason between you and me that I've realized, oh my gosh, that's really messed up. You guys are not moving on. You're still stuck on the old stuff. Even if you're a darker occultist, you're still stuck on that same stuff, the same image. So then, yeah, obviously, yeah, I've done more deeper research then from there onwards that it's a closed system, etc., etc. But yeah, that was pretty much the sense I have with those two archetypes.
Yeah. And you explained in one of your videos, I watched one yesterday. I guess it was Deep Stuff #1.
Yes.
And there you explained that you do not do occult or magic shit.
Yeah,
As you,
that was very forceful. Yes, I do not do that at all. I don't need to. There's no reason for it. I've never been drawn to using to going to do the rituals or any of that sort of thing. I find it interesting, but like I said, the Swiss clock can only work a certain way. Um, and I've always known that the information is always within. It always is, because that's how I've been guided up until the very moment that I'm sitting here with you.
yeah, yeah. And so you personally would not encourage people to go into practicing magic.
That I would not advise people to do that because number one, would you really want to um, sacrifice? Because it normally comes with sacrifice or an
Mm.
offering, which means you stand off a part of yourself for a belief system that was put there for you to believe in, which takes you outside of yourself. In other words, I focus on what is inside of you and that you're able to control your life from what is within, and that reflects outward. Why do you want to go and do something like that for something to happen inside of you? It is just not, it doesn't work that way, because whatever you do outside of yourself gives you a focus on a material uh, manifestation to happen, because normally that is what it's about. People never just do anything to get more wisdom or to feel more loved, or it's not like that. I want more money. I want this to happen for me. So I'm going to go and catch a kitten and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z with it, or a chicken, or whatever the case may be. So external rituals do not really serve you in any particular long lasting way. There's always a payment back to whatever deity or archetype you worship when you do that ritual. And it always exacts a price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah, I would agree with you. It's interesting to a certain point,
Yeah.
but that I would love to jump into it with both feet. No thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. For the same reasons, practically why I do not want to have anything to do with channelings. You know,
Exactly.
at the end of
Exactly.
the day,
Again,
you
dangerous.
really don't know what you are poking in there.
Yeah.
Anybody can, show up some astral thug and tell you, oh,
Yes.
I'm
Exactly.
Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The funny thing that you say there is I happen to experience, most of the time I'm able to sense people that have passed away. I see their spirits. I'm sure, I think you also do. I just get that sense from you that you've seen them passed away, people that visit you perhaps, and so on. And many of those people, once I go into a particular direction of a subject, any subject really, um, there's an interest to connect with me, to tell me their side of the story, which is what they do. I never let them ever come into my body, and it's a sovereign, it's my right to never let that ever happen. So this is why I also agree with you. It's very dangerous to let something come into your body for any purpose. It's not healthy to do that. Would you let any person from the street jump into your body or jump into your car for no reason? I mean, it's the same
Yeah.
reason, right?
Yeah.
So they have helped to help me build up the information and the knowledge on why the occult is so dangerous, or not the occult, but the rituals in the occult. The rituals as, yeah, rituals are dangerous. Many of these people that have done these things have stayed behind and got trapped in certain forms, which is very dangerous. I mean, the spirit is trapped. There's no, and it's not, what's his name, David Icke's story about being trapped somewhere in a little cube somewhere in the sky. It's not like that. They're trapped with certain elements like stones or artifacts that people use in rituals. That's where I'm sorry, I'm running off on a tangent here with Solomonic stuff. I don't know if you've actually seen that video, where Solomon's keys is really essentially agencies that are, um, like you would call someone a judge. Uh, it's Judge Johnson. Johnson's spirit is trapped in the agency of Judge Dredd, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's basically why I'm specifying the information very much more sort of forcefully, that it's very dangerous to do that, because that is what happens. There's a part of you that stays with whatever agency has been set in place before, by the people that wrote the books on magic. I've got nothing against it, but it's dangerous to use for
Do you
themselves.
do you mean agencies in terms of, let's say, the alphabet soup?
Part of it, yes. Apologies for just
Yeah, problem.
part of it, yes, but also in scriptures.
Okay. Oh, we had a little technical problem, but it has been resolved. So, yeah, Aurora, you were talking about agencies.
Oh yes, the agencies. Yes, to some degree, you could look at the alphabet soup as part of the agencies as well, but they are only the front men
Hmm.
for obviously more rituals. So it's basically in between where in whatever direction they're going into and who is controlling them from whatever direction. Like I said, the agencies are also controlled by a much bigger element, which interestingly enough, I was able to sense or trace through because of the last video that I made about being triggered, where the more they hide themselves in front of the machine, the digital wall, the more I'm able to sense them, as I'm sure you are as well. Empathic people are able to pick up on these people that hide themselves. So people leave a resonance behind. They leave a signature or a trace of their spirit energy behind, and that is visible to me. Personally, that is part of my gift that I have, is to be able to track that those footprints, and that is how I noticed that a bigger agency, you want to call it a bigger fish that sits in the background that's really controlling all the smaller little elite and ABC corporations as well. So yeah, when a person is ritually taken out of the living or made unalive, um, that person's spirit is used for a particular purpose. It's like rocket fuel, and it's allocated to a particular direction. It could be put into certain spells to make another spell stronger. It can be used in image worshipping, such as meme magic as well. And then that adds to something that's called a servitor or an egregore and so on. So yeah, nothing gets wasted. Everything's used. It's a closed system. So yeah, pretty much.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sadly.
Okay. So, I came, I stumbled on something in that video that I mentioned before, They'd Be Triggered, that
Yeah.
I have never heard before, but I found it really interesting. You didn't talk too long about it, but maybe you can walk us through that. And that is called destiny swapping. And
Yes.
that was really something that sparked my interest.
Well, destiny swapping relates to something very interesting, which I've examined under mirror magic, if you want to call it like that. So essentially, if you look at the way that mirror magic has been done in the occult or in certain rituals, it's normally to do with wishing to attain a connection with what the heart desires. So essentially, if you're looking at what the heart desires, it could be a type of destiny, it could be a type of lifestyle that another person has, it could be anything really. It doesn't matter. It is whatever tickles the fancy of the person that's doing that specific work. And in that case, um, they believe when they do the magical ritual during full moon, which normally is also the time for parasites to come out, as well. That's on a side note there, where there is a focus on desiring another person's destiny because they have then done another, that they may have gone and done a tarot reading, or they've done sort of whatever sort of magical investigation on a person that they find interesting. It could be an actor or an actress or whomever, it doesn't matter. And that person seems to appeal to that person. They then go through that process where they are then believing that if they do the ritual a particular way, they will be able to access that person's destiny. And that is normally to do with believing that they are normally people that would focus on fate-based life. So in other words, your life is fixed in the fates. And those people that believe in lives being fixed in fates are people that believe that they are focused on the material reality for the destiny to happen. On a psychological level, that is what I've noticed. So based on that, they then believe that if they are able to track that person's image, um, which then they create a servitor of, which would be something like a type of voodoo doll, if you want to call it like that. Um, and they then start to copy that person's facial features, the voice, the tone of their voice, the hairstyle. It doesn't matter. Music, even artistry, can be anything. Um, then they believe that if they look like that person, they may then have that person's destiny that they believe that person might have. But that only comes if they've done some sort of investigation on the person or the subject to be predated on energetically. What I've noticed is that in that process, they do have a certain knowledge that it's possible to actually alter or enter into another person's energy field, where they can do it via remote viewing, or they may be able to do it via magical ritual, spell work, whatever works for them. Sometimes there's rituals that are a much more advanced. I would assume I can feel the density of the advancement of that energy, and then they believe that they are able then to accumulate that person's lifestyle energetically. They believe that very, very deeply. It's almost similar to if you look at a narcissist, for example, a narcissistic personality disorder would be focused on what they can, on the image of themselves within another person's response to them. It's always important to keep their own image intact um, within the victim's mind or their lifestyle. So that is very similar to destiny swapping in a sense as well. It's very far reaching. It's a very wide band that you can look at in terms of that.
I do not discount that people believe that, but have you ever heard of a case where that actually worked?
Actually, funnily enough, I've read about cases like that,
Okay.
where a very good case is actually the story between John Dee and Edward Kelly, where Edward Kelly was associated with whatever they were worshiping or doing or investigating at the time. And this angel that he saw, that he was led to connect with via John Dee, had associated his life, his body, his entire body. And there are many books that Edward Kelly writes under the guise of this angel that had associated him into it. So that's one of the examples that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in other words, Kelly became D?
Possessed. No, Kelly became possessed by the angel that John Dee and Kelly were investigating.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but then, but whom did he? So he was trying to swap his destiny with an angel.
The other way around.
The
He
angel
needed,
wanted.
yes, he
Ah,
needed to have,
okay.
yes, yeah.
I'm a little bit slow today.
Oh, you're not slow. It's okay. I'm a bit fast.
Okay. Yeah, you know, that is just another example why people should really stay away from messing around with
Yeah,
spirits.
yeah,
Yeah, you never know how that will go.
yeah. It's whatever. You know, let me put it this way. People who are very involved in focusing on that sort of esoteric technology, whatever you want to call it, are people that normally are very focused on the material reality for something. So there's never just something for personal self-enrichment, as I said, it's for something to gain. There's always something to gain, something material, something physical to get. And that is why these things exist for people to do that. It's written under so many idea under so many umbrellas to mean so many things, but essentially it's the same thing. You're going to have to give something to get something. That is how this world works. Energy exchange, doesn't matter in what way.
Mhm.
uh, my concern is what happens to you when you pass away. And I've had a lot of experience with people that have passed away that said, we're stuck here, we can't actually get out of here, and this is what happened. Um, so this might help you in your research to help other people, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. So essentially that's the warning always, um, from whether they're alive or not. The warning is always, can't get out of here, because I'm in something, because I did this or I did that. Yeah.
And is there, yeah, let's say a chance, a mechanism to still get out there, out of here, let's
Out of
say?
out of oh, out of here, or
Mhm.
out of the
Yeah,
trapping.
no, those dead people that have signaled we are stuck here because we did ABC. Um, is in that particular moment, is there still a way to say, okay, but if you do this and that, you can still leave?
If they're stuck, they're stuck.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Some of them can come out. It depends on what it is that they've done, and some of them can never come out. That's just how it is, until uh, whoever decides to do whatever ritual or magical practice again, and then decides to call out angel, demon, X, da 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 da. Um, and then it says in a book called Magic, I can't remember the title of it, but I'll give you the links of the books and stuff if you're interested in it later, where they start off by asking, they say, spirit to come into the the it's in the Lesser Keys of Solomon, to come into the office of whatever angel or or devil or demon, whatever. And that person that's passed away could be someone that's died 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, or maybe just yesterday. That person, if they had lived in a particular way where they were focused on that sort of stuff, 99% of the time they will be drawn into that same ritual to come into carrying out the magical ritual that is being spoken with the book at hand for whatever purpose. So in other words, it's like if you were a witch and you did all of that stuff and you love doing all of that magical stuff, you're going to be in that sort of reality after you've passed away. And if your fellow people of the coven do the same magical thing, 99% of the time, better be sure of it, you will be summoned and brought into their ritual as archangel this or devil that. It is a
Mhm.
fact. And you will be then of service to them. So it relates very much to um, the belief systems around these particular technologies. I mean, you want to call it that. I call it technologies because I don't know what else to call it as a blanketed statement. But people are often allowing themselves to be taken up by certain belief systems and ideologies in certain rituals, in certain beliefs. It can be politics as well. It doesn't matter, religion, etc. Whatever it is that you are sacrificing a part of yourself to, you are then of service of that thing. You can get out of it, or you stay in it. If you stay in it, then you are of service still, but to those that are left behind. Um, some people can actually get out. They eventually do come out, but it takes a long time, and that's their journey. As you know, life never really stops when you pass away. You just go into the next direction. So yeah, that's basically it. Whatever you believe in is, yeah, locks you into it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me, and another reason to really stay away from that.
It's being practiced all this time. I mean, do you remember when Trump was elected first time round? They
Mm-hmm.
used a meme magic kick, which is exactly the same thing. It is cybermancy now because of the internet technology. There's so many more people online. The black screen is the obsidian stone in which they can do their rituals into, looking at a person's face and then copying them, believing that whatever, whatever the thing is that they believe in.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's never going to stop. I mean, you just need to. So, what I'm trying to help people is to understand how to be mindful that they need to protect their energetic field by applying themselves in a particular way. In other words, knowing that you've got all of those parts inside of you. You've got a mind, body, soul, and a spirit. You don't just have a soul. You have the soul as the operating system that allows your energy field to resonate around you. And that is what you could call that your energetic temple, if you want to call it like that. It's not just your physical body. And you need to protect that field. You need to protect it with everything that you've got inside of you, but you mustn't live in fear. So how are you able to connect to protect that energy field is to know that you are number one, you have light within inside of you and you have dark inside of you. You have masculine and feminine as principles that converge in the heart, which is the heart of understanding. And in that way you are able to create your own little world, your own reality, and you are able to create with your thoughts into what it is that you wish to experience in your immediate environment. Obviously, I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight or it's going to happen like that. That's not ever happening like that. But you work towards that. Yeah, that's basically it.
Mm. You just touched on a subject that is very dear to my heart, and that is that we don't really die except for our bodies.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. On the other hand, because these are very, very intense times.
Mm.
And some confused people might come to the conclusion, yeah, well, if we don't die anyway, then it doesn't really matter if I murder that person or not. So how do we keep the balance?
In terms of being mindful that if you die, you actually need to be mindful of. Actually, let me say this. If you have self-respect, then
Mhm.
you will automatically be mindful of the balance inside of you.
Yeah.
If you have self-love, you will have self-respect, you will have morals, and then therefore you will automatically know. It is an inherent balance inside of every human being. Some people choose not to listen to the balance. They choose to eradicate that balance with whatever they believe they can get from the material realm. The material realm, yes, is very malleable because we can see how people can alter the course of time by just posting a few news features online, for example, and the mass would follow that. And that is how things would start to happen. That is how simple creation actually works. But if you have a morality inside of you, if you're aware of self-respect, you will not get you won't violate your own balance.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
would be it.
Yeah, and plus, in the end, it is a form of theft.
Yes,
You rob that other person of the ability to have more experiences and to develop here.
yes, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you don't have that inside of you, then I will treat you as a thief, whoever it is. I will treat
Mm.
that person as a thief because you have no right to climb into my car the same way as letting a spirit come into a person to do free will channeling for whatever purpose. Bad, it's dangerous.
Yeah. Um, you also talked in this video that we have mentioned a couple of times about daydreaming being the preliminary state of leaving your body, or as let's say astral travel. Um, I have been daydreaming very intensely since I was very little child. And but I never, as far as I know, I have to say that I never left my body. And actually, I don't have a desire to.
You know, it's a funny thing you say that. I did that. I tested. I'm my own best guinea pig, obviously. I
Mhm.
tried that. I investigated what was outside, and I was kind of bored. And I thought, okay, is that what it is? That's just there, okay. I can do it in a different way. And the way that I realized was to be able to access the ability to touch on a frequency that it really, let me say this, self-love is very powerful because then you have enough essence inside of you to be able to let your daydream become a rocket ship. You'll be able
Mhm.
to go even further to what it is that you're looking for, or the other way around. You can go into yourself, which is what I've investigated as well. That everybody always says in the books and in whatever stuff, they say, I know I've left and I've gone there and I saw this and this and that, or the other place, or the other side, whatever the case is, also a buzzword. I entered into myself, and I came outside of this world, which
Mhm.
I then thought, whoa, this is crazy. I better document this. So I did. I carried on doing it. And you could actually see that deep stuff, the Beyond Thunderdome, that was the finding. And it was very difficult to explain it because it has never been heard before. But that tells me then that there's it was only when I was able to see all of that in an energetic form that it is something that explains why everyone's being trained to go the other way and instead to do it another way. I'm just like you, a rebel. I will do the other way because why are you telling me to do that? I will do the other way and see
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When you said I'm my best guinea pig,
yeah.
I thought, yeah, yesterday when I listened to other videos of yours, that I always had the impression this is not a woman that just talks about book knowledge. Not that I'm not dismissing book knowledge, it's important, but I always had the impression that you are speaking from personal experience.
exactly.
Mm,
It is. I only bring in parts of book knowledge because some people need that. Some people wish to have that. And then I will find something that will affirm that. Or I will say, this is it. I've done this. I've done this on myself. I dare you. Go on. Do the same thing if you want to. You won't die because I'm alive. I'm sitting here right now. And I've had people that have affirmed that they've seen the same thing. So, yeah, like I said, I am my own best guinea pig. I'll never talk about something that I would expect another person to do if I've never done it myself. Never. I
mm,
do not believe that it is right to do that. Um, I'm sure that as we grew up, I'm sure in your life, you've realized that there are people that would say, do this, da, 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 and they've never done it.
mm.
That makes them a liar. It makes them a person who just wishes to be in control. So yeah, I suppose Promethean is very apt for that.
Yeah. So, another point that was hitting home for me was Kundalini Yoga because I'm absolutely no fan of
No,
yoga in general or
do not
especially
advise it.
Kundalini Yoga. And but I found it very interesting what you talked about how you are practically creating a short in your nervous system, or did I get
Yes,
that wrong?
yes, no, you're right, you're right. It shorts out your your endocrine and your nervous system when you do something like that. It's like you, okay, so let me put it this way. I've had people that have experienced that, that have done that whole Kundalini thing, and there was a one particular gentleman who was experiencing it in an extremely extreme form, and um, from his spine all the way in his spine all the way up, there were these cold areas in his spine because he's done that. And it's not like he didn't do this with training because they were all being trained to do the same technique. So it's not like he was not under the right teacher or whatever they usually do. The thing is, when you do something like that, the technique in a book called, what's his name? Autobiography of a Yogi talks about the exact steps. Okay. Everything that takes you straight into your base line instead of going all the way up. Why? Why do you have to go down to go up? Why are you not just able to just rise within consciousness, you
Mm-hmm.
know, by yourself, by your natural progression? Um, when people do the actual breathing technique themselves, the hyper breathing shuts off certain parts inside of the chakras, and that creates a short in the energetic nervous system. The spine is particularly, then there are cold spots in the spine, and I've seen it. I've dealt with people with that problem. Many years ago, I was doing healing for them, and that was what they did. So there's always a problem in the spine and always in the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And is it possible to get rid of those problems when you stop doing that?
I think um, what is possible to do is that you need to investigate why you chose to do that in the first place.
Mm.
What did you want to achieve? And then to revisit that and then to clear that up. If you did that because you wanted to be a Superman or a superhero or whatever, or this or that, or a better husband or a better wife, um, then you need to address why that subject, that situation, revisit the situation, and then revoke the belief system that you needed to do that the external thing to hurt your body to get to that point. Um, yeah, it's incredibly sexual based energy, which is primal energy, which is basically drawing all the energy from your consciousness into your base chakra, which then anchors you into this reality. And when you pass away, you basically stay here. You don't go. You don't go. You just hang around, like hanging around, hangman on the tarot card. You hang there because you've anchored yourself into this realm. The realm is, or the material realm is, like I said, malleable. It is also an impermanent state, but it is permanent because of your interaction with it. And even the interaction in itself afterwards becomes a, it's gone past. Therefore, if you anchor yourself into something, into a belief system that you're making yourself into a permanent fixture within a place that is not permanent, but has the appearance of permanency, then you have a problem. It is just a problem.
Yeah. There are a lot of experiences that one can read about NDEs, and I'm not saying these are all useless. I'm not doubting that people experienced it, but I think it's a very, very personal thing. It does not mean that you will experience something similar.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it, it's depending on our belief system. Let's say you are a very devout Christian or Muslim, you will probably have the experience of a Jesus, a
Yes.
Mohammed, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that that isn't another trap. I would say it is.
I agree with you. I Let me put it this way. Um, it is based on a belief system. It is that which does the same thing like we've discussed before. Uh, the interesting thing is, I want to share a little story here. I grew up with a lot of religion around me, and this particular church that I was in as a child had been investigate works with a lot of people that have passed away. Then they don't do it now, as far as I know. I've not been there many years now, and what they look like when they've died in that church is they are in that church for they stay there in the church. They basically do not go anywhere else because they believe that the church is the heavenly place because it is propagated that way, right? So when they've died, they are stuck there. They don't leave. I'm always concerned about, don't you want to leave the building? Don't you want to go a little further away? And the answer is always, but there's nothing else out there. Um, I will stay here. And so the same thing applies to people that have been very heavily focused on particular religious belief systems or whatever you want to call it, that do alter the consciousness when they do have their NDEs. Absolutely. But it is, as you say, it is subject to personal experience. Absolutely. Um, this is why I'm saying, I mean, you can look at 110,000 forms of looking at the guy who did 70,000 scripts of hypnotic and hypnosis to find out NDEs, and they are all the same. There's always a seeking to have a hierarchy or an archetype that is higher than the person themselves to take control of them, to look after them. I'm not like that. I don't want somebody to come and look after me. I look after myself. And um, I've had a few of those experiences, and each and every time of whenever it happened in my lifetime, um, I've had different experiences. And then I thought, but that's just freaking weird that it's changed every time. Up until the last time that I had it, which I used to have a problem with my immune system, and I wasn't very well at the time, and so on. And so the last time that I had that, there was simply only nothing, because I had been investigated that I don't want to have any of those things. So that nothingness is not like cyberspace or a blank wall. The nothing was something that I had wished to experience as peace and love. And that
Mm,
was that.
mm,
Um, and that is what I wanted at that moment
mm,
before I came back.
mm,
So it is subject to personal belief.
mm. Reminds me a little bit of my experience when I had my brain surgery.
Okay.
Um, and I remember when the nurse said, she came with a mask to put me under. And I remember when she said, "Yeah, think of something beautiful and and have nice dreams." And that was the last thing that I can remember.
Mm,
And no, I didn't have nice dreams.
no.
Absolutely not. I didn't have bad dreams. I was it was not even the experience of nothingness, not even that.
Mm,
Looking back, it felt like, okay, somebody switched out the light and then somebody switched it on again. And I had a very weird experience when I came out of the anesthesia. But I I was absolutely, yeah, I don't even have a word for that. It wasn't uncomfortable, it wasn't frightening. It was absolutely okay.
yeah, that is exactly it. You
Mm,
didn't have any archetype that hung around you. You didn't have rainbows and unicorns and angels sing for you. None of that. That perception-based space that you found yourself in was because you put yourself there because of what you've already accomplished in your life. Think about it.
mm,
You needed to have that moment of peace. You probably looked for having peace. I just want some peace right now. And that's probably what happened in your subconsciousness.
mm,
Um, yeah, it's fascinating. It's
mm,
fascinating. And there's so much more in that vastness. You could there's a lot of something
mm.
that you are literally able to touch on.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
maybe I was too weak because I was very, very dehydrated when I arrived at the hospital. The thing was, I had a brain tumor and it was located where, your sense of
Back
balance.
there.
Yeah.
I picked
And
up on that before I saw you.
what? You
I
picked
picked
up?
up on that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly there. Yeah. And but I was not nervous about the
Mm,
surgery. I wasn't, you know, not happy about it. I was very, very neutral to the whole
mm,
thing. Maybe it had something to do with it that I was really not, physically in a good place.
it's possible.
Because when I was still at home, I had reached a point where I even vomited out a sip of water. Yeah.
Mm,
And I dragged it on to go to the hospital as long as I could, but then came a point where I had no other choice.
mm,
And yeah, but the entire time I was so, uh, I'm just doing it.
yeah.
No worries. I just do it. And the nurse was a little bit irritated. She wanted to calm me down. And I said, I'm not nervous.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that
I
was
believe
nice
you.
of her, but
I know. She's like, what are you paying me for now?
yeah. So, speaking of NDEs, there are so many books out there. Go into the
Oh,
light,
it's too
yeah,
many. Yeah.
and entering the light, and various titles of stepping into the light when you die. And I would say the opposite.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. You described the white light. What was that? The one that looked like a fountain? Or was that the other one with the guardians in front of it?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Those were the steps. Those were the times that I had experienced. So I was notating it when I was doing that video. I can't even remember which video it was. But I do remember it was once like a fountain, and then I saw, and then because of the pluming of the energy of light, of not light, but streams of let's call it ether.
Mm-hmm.
I could sense that I could comb through it with my thoughts. I could read through it like a loom, like a harp, like harp strings, like a harp. And then at another stage, I didn't go any further into that. That I came back in. Then I experienced seeing um, entities standing in front of a process for me to get through. And that was when I did the other way of, I had willfully done the astral work along with
Mm-hmm.
into myself and out of myself. Instead of floating out, I floated into myself, imploded like a star into myself through my heart. And I came out. I literally went out like that. I came
Mm-hmm.
out and I saw that there were these entities that had appeared like goons or soldiers or I don't know what you want to call them, not artificial, not alien, inherent to this world. You could call them soldiers or not soldiers, even you could call them like, I don't know. I don't have a word to explain that. And I wanted to see what was beyond them. It's like there's this guidance system around the particular realm that you have to go through before you're able to actually see the entire realm for what it is. And they were in the field of the electromagnetic field around the world, which does not look the way that it's presented. The world appears like it's moving all the time. It's not just a solid object as a round circle, round ball. It's not a solid object. It's movement in the shape of a sphere, but it changes as whatever uh, happens in the um, ether that is related to space measured, to put it like
Mm-hmm.
that. Okay, now I've given like a lot of stuff that I've just said there now because I'm trying to explain to you how I saw it. Um, so when you look at an eyeball, you take the eyeball out of the socket and you move light through it. It starts to do this where it loses its shape. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what the earth or the world looked like to me, like moving out like that. But only after I had to go past those guides or guardians, whatever you want to call them. And only when I was able to look there was I able to see what it looked like. And I could see that they were inside of the fringe of the electromagnetic field around it, like a torus. to put it like that.
Mm.
So yeah,
So
that's basic. Yeah.
how can we avoid to confuse our own light with the false white light that is the recycling machine?
By making sure that you know what is real inside of you
Mhm.
always. First, what is real within you is your connection with love. Love is the realest thing that people can feel. People feel pain, they feel sorrow, they feel love, and love is the most lasting because pain leaves you eventually. Sorrow also leaves you eventually, and love remains to be the longest. Many people think of love, they'll remember when they fell in love, and they'll never forget that. And smell. Smell is also very permanent in your consciousness. And if you focus on those things inside of you that give you those aspects to focus on that bring you, let's call it the light, or not, no, that's maybe not the right word, but something good, moralistically connecting with something that is strong for you, that is something that holds resonance for you, then you're able to connect with that. Then you are able to differentiate between what is false and what is not.
Mm. Why do you think that? I mean, okay, we have been for many thousands of years now in the age of Pisces, which has
Mm.
the energy of I believe. But still, why is it that people have such a strong desire to hang their head on something, yeah, outside of them that is promising to lead them to greener pastures or whatever? Why do you think is that? Is that just something that was deliberately put into us, or?
I believe very much that, and I'm saying the word believe,
Mm,
that it was very much put there in terms of needing to occupy the consciousness with something, partly to do with the human condition that wishes to look at something outside of itself, which relates to the first image of worship of an idol. And an idol in itself is something that is outside of the person, and they will then pray to that idol and give it energy, and it'll become a living egregore and blah, 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 blah. But that is essentially, I think, a part laziness, to be very, very truthful with you. I think
I
there's a
didn't hear that word correctly. It is what?
laziness.
Ah, laziness. Okay.
Yeah, I will be very blunt and say I think there's part laziness that relates to that situation because there is an over focus on wishing to have something take care of you, him, her, whatever, because then I don't have to do it, right?
Mm,
I would rather worship the statue that represents something that will give me some sort of idea or an ideology that will make me feel better, feel cozy and nice and warm and safe in the arms of Jesus, you know, and not do this for myself because I believe I'm number one, it's too much hard work, which is the big problem. And number two, I don't think I'm worthy enough for doing that. I think I'm a piece of trash, so therefore I don't think I'm worthy enough to actually even be able to look after myself. So you do it. You do it for me, Yahweh, or whatever you want to call it.
mm,
You look after me. I don't have to worry about it. I just want to make the millions. I just want to drive my car, have my kids, have my family, have people look after me, and then you do the rest. Whatever.
mm,
Marshmallow Man. It's a condition. It's what leads, it's what made me question the understanding of, so okay, that's the condition of let's say, I'm not going to say everyone because not everyone is like this. I value the question that you've asked, which led me to investigate and examine again in another form what creates the belief that they can actually swap a destiny, number one. Number two, cyber stalking a person on a stalking level, and I was stalked a lot. And seeing what happened, for example, with that, and that gives me the understanding of, okay, so there is definitely a need to have something outside that is still there. And therefore I call those people materialists, not in the sense of some sort of genre that I'm trying to lead anyone into, but because if you are so heavily focused on something outside of yourself, then that means you automatically worship the material reality in its temporal state, whatever it does for you, outside of you. Therefore, you will desire everything outside of you. Therefore, you will take zero responsibility for yourself internally.
So in other words, mentally and spiritually, we remain little toddlers.
Exactly. Hence, I am fishies forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a lot to swallow. You know, for somebody who's really devoted, that
Yes.
is quite a break.
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
But I had to understand that I grew up in a household that was very strict in terms of certain way of life. My dad was a minister in the church. We all grew up like little soldiers in the church. And um, it just didn't gel with me anymore. I just did not see the logic of having to accept when that man is standing and talking there, and right behind the corner, he's swearing like a trooper and he's done something bad to his wife. But
Mm.
he goes and stands in front of me with his fake mask and tells me godly things. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you had the negative example right in your face. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And that is also something that Wayne Steiger said. He was very, involved with I don't know, was it a Pentecostal group? I'm not quite sure, but he was doing the healing with the hands and the
Yeah,
whole nine
yeah,
yards. And that was his wake-up call was when he he did an app for a certain church to for donations and so on and so forth. And then he realized how they are all filling their own coffers.
exactly. It's
And
always like that.
that essentially was the beginning of him turning away.
Hmm. Oddly enough, there's the guy Mark Stavish who wrote a book on egregores,
Mhm.
who wrote in the book about his religious experiences as well. And he was a Rosicrucian guy. And he just thought, nope, it's not working for me either, which I'm thinking is quite amazing actually that they admit these things in their books. But yeah, very much the same sort of thing. It's very dangerous. And he was petrified of what was going on in there with the way that the egregores are actually created as a non-living entity, which is a thing that's like you would go to a sports arena and people are just enamored with the game. And that energy of enamoredness is an egregore that's alive, that comes alive, and everyone's blinked starstruck with it. Um, Buildings, companies, these things have that frequency in it. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, the Rosicrucians, that is a tribe of
Yeah,
its own.
exactly.
To put it friendly. Oh.
Yes, well said. Well said.
But those people have a lot of power actually.
They
The
do, but
high,
they are
I'm
also,
not saying every little Rosicrucian, but the higher ups.
they
Oh
do. However, I know that there's something that's even pulling their strings.
yeah. Yeah,
In
sure.
fact, yeah, as a
Yeah.
fact, yeah.
With all that Egyptian shit that they have going on,
Mm.
yeah, I don't even want to know what is pulling the strings there.
No, I mean, the last thing that I made was called The Wicked Agency, and I just didn't know what title to give it because I'd seen it. It was always there. The Rosicrucians are just the front men. They're just the guys that are standing in front of a stable door, and they keep the pony inside, fed and watered, sort of thing. That's saying that, because this group of people are exceptionally powerful in the way that they can create realities so that these front little stable boys can do the bidding. And it works in the same principle as what I've explained, where um, energy is understood in a particular way where it's possible to manipulate it, and it can then be used to have a certain outcome.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, I think for the first, I really hope you are coming back. And
Happy to do so.
but we talked about some stuff that needs a little bit of time to unwrap this. So what are your thoughts on spirit and soul? That was also something that I found very, very interesting. And I totally agree, spirit comes first. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes. Well, spirit and soul, I'm very happy that you're asking me that. Spirit is you in your essence as your immortal being of energy.
Mm.
Your soul is your operating system, which helps you to negotiate the world. I use an example, I call it the Uber driver example, where the car is the vessel, the physical form, the driver is the mind, or the soul, and the GPS is the mind and the ego, and the passenger is the spirit. And that is how you need to look at yourself and how you operate, because without your spirit, um, you're unable to have the ability to connect with something higher. You're unable to create something from your mind creatively for it to happen. Taking a blank canvas and drawing something on it, or to build something new. It doesn't matter. Creativity is something that does come from the spirit itself as the essence. You could call it fire if you want. Um, and yeah, there's definitely a difference between the soul and the spirit. When you pass away, your soul essentially ascends into the spirit, and then you leave where in
So
whatever
it,
way.
it practically dissolves into the spirit.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Go straight back in because you've created the operating system needs to understand certain things here and there and whatever, learn how to eat, feed, and so on. And the spirit is wishing to know, so it can't just immediately directly impact the world. It's just too raw, I think. So yeah, that's the best way I can explain it. We have not just the soul, we have a
Yeah,
spirit as well. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And it is so interesting that we are always taught, yeah, your soul is going to heaven.
yeah. For them, yeah. You want to go to heaven, that's fine. It's your own perception of heaven. Heaven is a perception based.
Hmm.
If you want to be separated from your soul, I don't know how that is ever possible. I cannot comprehend that.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, Aurora, oh wow, I have to listen to this a couple of times, I'm pretty sure. And as I said, you will be back.
thank you. Yes, I will. Happy to do
And
that.
yeah, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, guys, that was it. Night flight for today with the wonderful Aurora. And we see you all next time. Until then, stay safe and sound.
Thank you. Bye-bye.